The snow was falling sideways, sharp as glass in the mountain wind. Headlights from the broken-down car faded into the distance behind her, swallowed by the dark. Olivia Carter gripped her baby tighter, wrapping him in her coat as she stumbled along the frozen shoulder of Highway 19. Every step burned. Every breath felt like ice cutting through her lungs. 8-month-old Noah whimpered against her chest. She pressed his tiny face under her chin. "It's okay, baby. We're almost there," she whispered, though she had no idea where there was. For the last 2 miles there'd been nothing but pine trees, snow, and silence. Then suddenly, through the swirling white, a dull orange glow appeared, a sign half covered in frost, its neon flickering weakly. Iron Ridge Guardians, MEC, a biker clubhouse, the kind of place her sister once warned her to stay far away from. But there were no other lights, no passing cars, no houses, just this. Olivia hesitated. The sound of engines thudded faintly from inside, mixed with laughter and the crackle of rock music. Her legs trembled. Noah's cries grew weaker. She had no choice. She climbed the wooden steps, snow crunching under her boots, and knocked on the heavy metal door. At first, nothing. Then the music stopped. The door creaked open. A tall man filled the doorway, leather vest, gloves, and eyes like steel gray winter. He looked down at her, then at the small bundle in her arms. I can't keep walking," Olivia said, her voice shaking. "My baby's freezing. Can we stay one night?" Behind the man, the room went silent. About a dozen bikers stared from behind tables and pool cues. Tattoos, beards, smoke curling in the air. Not one word. Then the man in the doorway spoke, voice low but commanding. "Get the kid by the stove," he said. "Now." 2 bikers moved instantly. One cleared a space by the fire, the other brought a thick blanket. The man held the door wider. "Come in, ma'am." Olivia stepped inside, dizzy from the heat and fear colliding in her chest. Her knees gave out. Someone caught her before she hit the floor. "Easy," said a woman's voice, firm but kind. The woman had black hair tied under a bandana and dark eyes that softened when she saw the baby. "Name's Raven. Give him to me." Olivia hesitated for a split second, but then handed Noah over. Raven unzipped her leather jacket and tucked the baby close to her body warmth. "He's cold, but he'll be fine," Raven murmured. The tall man closed the door against the storm and turned to the others. "Coffee, blankets, move." Nobody argued. They moved like a team used to following orders. Within minutes, the fire burned hot. Steam rose from the mugs. Olivia sat wrapped in a blanket, color slowly returning to her face. The man crouched beside her. "Name's Ethan Maddox," he said. "People call me Bear. You're lucky you found this place. Storm's only getting worse." "Thank you," she whispered. I didn't know where else to go." Bear nodded. "You from around here?" "No, I was driving to Pine Hollow," she said. "My sister lives there. We haven't spoken in a while, but she just had a baby, and I thought maybe it was time." Raven looked up from beside the fire. "That's a long drive alone with a kid." Olivia nodded. "Car died halfway up the pass. No signal. I just started walking." Bear studied her face for a moment, then the small form sleeping in Raven's arms. Something shifted behind his eyes. Not pity, but recognition. He stood and turned to the others. "Cole," he called. A blonde biker with sharp blue eyes stepped forward. "Yeah, Prez?" "Take the truck. Go get her car before it's buried." Cole frowned. "In this weather? It's 3 miles back." Bear's tone didn't change. "Then better start now." Cole grumbled, but grabbed his jacket and keys. The rest of the club watched in quiet respect. No one questioned Bear twice. Olivia blinked, still dazed by how fast everything was happening. "You don't have to." Bear cut her off gently. "Ma'am, you showed up on our doorstep with a baby. That makes you family until you're safe." Raven smiled faintly. "Club rule." Noah stirred and started to cry again. Raven rocked him with surprising ease. He's hungry. You got a bottle? Olivia nodded and fumbled through her bag. Her fingers shook as she tried to open it, but Raven took over. In seconds, she had the bottle warmed near the fire and placed it carefully in Olivia's hands. Here you go, Mama, she said. Olivia looked around at the room. Rough men, scars, loud laughter. Yet every single one had turned soft at the sight of a shivering child. People say a lot of things about bikers, she whispered. I didn't think. Bear's deep voice interrupted. Most people never stick around long enough to find out. Cole returned almost an hour later, covered in snow. Car's toast, he said. Battery's gone, tires half buried. Bear didn't even blink. We'll handle it in the morning. Olivia tried to protest. I can't ask you to. You didn't, Bear said simply. The fire popped. Outside, wind screamed against the windows. Inside, the baby slept soundly in Raven's arms while Bear poured coffee and sat across from Olivia. You said Pine Hollow? He asked. She nodded. Yeah. Why? He looked away for a second, jaw tightening. Just haven't been there in a while. Cole glanced up from the bar. 3 years to be exact, he muttered. And for good reason. Bear's tone dropped cold. Not tonight, Cole. Olivia noticed the change in the air but didn't understand it. Something unspoken hung between them. A story she hadn't earned the right to hear. Outside, the storm howled louder. Inside, the fire crackled, baby Noah breathing soft and steady. Bear stood, his shadow tall against the firelight. Get some rest, he said quietly. Tomorrow, we'll see about getting you to Pine Hollow. Olivia looked up, surprised. You mean, you'd take us there? He didn't answer right away. Then without turning, he said, no one should walk alone in a storm. As he walked away, Cole leaned closer to Raven, whispering under his breath, she's taking us right back into the town that hates us. You really think this is just about helping some mom? Raven's eyes flicked toward Bear's back. No, she said softly. I think it's about fixing something he never could. The wind rattled the windows again. Olivia held her baby tighter, unaware that by knocking on that door she had just set something much bigger in motion, something that would test loyalty, courage, and the meaning of compassion itself. And outside, under the roaring snow, the bikes of the Iron Ridge Guardians waited. Engines cold for now, but not for long. The storm passed during the night, leaving the world quiet and silver. When Olivia opened her eyes, the first light of dawn spilled through the frosted windows of the clubhouse. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then she saw the baby sleeping in a folded leather jacket beside her, and the faint smell of coffee drifting through the air. The place looked different in daylight. What had seemed dangerous and loud now felt almost peaceful. Walls lined with old photos, motorcycle parts neatly stacked in corners, the faint hum of a heater somewhere behind the bar. Raven appeared, already dressed in her riding gear. Morning sunshine, she said, handing Olivia a steaming mug. Bear's got breakfast on the table. Hope you like eggs and attitude. Olivia smiled weakly. You people don't really look like the stories. Raven snorted. Good. The stories are boring. Across the room, Bear stood at the counter studying a map spread out under his hands. Cole and 2 other bikers, Diesel and Don Tankauk, leaned over it, arguing about the route. It's 80 miles to Pine Hollow, Cole said. Half of it's still iced over. The sheriff out there still hates our guts. You really think this is smart? Bear didn't look up. We're not doing it because it's smart. Cole slammed a gloved hand on the table. We're not a rescue service, Bear. What if they arrest us the minute we cross county lines? Bear finally met his eyes. Then we'll know we did the right thing before they did the wrong one. The room went silent. Even Diesel stopped pretending to fix his gloves. Raven looked at Olivia and whispered, that means it's already decided. When Bear turned, his tone softened. You up for a ride, Olivia? She blinked. Ride? You mean... He nodded. We'll take you and the little guy to Pine Hollow. It's not safe to wait here. The mountain road will be clear enough by mid-morning. Olivia looked down at Noah, sleeping peacefully. I can't ask you to. You didn't, Bear said again, same calm as last night. We take care of people who land at our door. An hour later, the Iron Ridge Guardians rolled out. The sound of engines echoed through the valley like thunder shaking off the cold. Olivia stood in the open doorway, the baby cradled close, until Raven pulled up in the support van and opened the passenger door. Hop in, Mama. Heater works. Most of the time. Olivia smiled nervously and climbed in. Through the windshield, she could see the line of 6 motorcycles idling ahead. Leather jackets gleaming, exhaust steaming in the cold air. Bear led the convoy on a matte black Harley with silver wings painted across the tank. When the van started moving, Olivia watched the clubhouse fade behind them. It looked almost small now, like a piece of safety left behind in the snow. They rode through the mountain pass for hours, engine steady, tires cutting through patches of frost. The road curved along steep cliffs, pine trees bending under snow. Every now and then, one of the bikers would glance back at the van, checking that she was still there. Inside, Noah slept most of the way. Olivia sat quiet, eyes wide as the landscape opened before her. She turned to Raven. Do you always do this? Help strangers? Raven grinned. We don't get many mothers with babies knocking at midnight. Usually it's drunks asking for gas money. Olivia laughed softly. Then why now? Raven's smile faded. Because Bear said so. And when he says something like this, it usually means it's personal. Olivia frowned. Personal how? Raven shrugged. He doesn't talk about it. But the last time someone asked for help and we didn't make it in time, he didn't forgive himself. The van hit a small bump. Noah stirred but didn't wake. Olivia pressed a kiss to his forehead. He lost someone? Raven nodded once. His sister. The radio crackled suddenly. Cole's voice came through the static. Eyes open, we've got company. Pick up behind us since the gas station. Bear's voice replied steady. Copy. Keep pace. Don't react. Olivia's heart skipped. Company? Raven checked the mirror. A dark pickup followed a few hundred feet back. Probably nothing, she said, but her hand moved to the glove compartment anyway. Olivia saw the black pistol inside and froze. Raven caught her expression and smirked. Relax, Mama. I don't use it unless someone gives me a reason. They stopped for fuel at a roadside diner around noon, a dusty little place with a faded sign and a single pump out front. As soon as the bikers pulled in, the few locals eating inside pressed against the windows, whispering. Olivia could feel it, the stares, the fear, the judgment. She tightened her grip on the baby. Bear walked in first, calm and quiet. We'll pay cash, he said to the waitress. Just coffee and soup for everyone. The woman hesitated but nodded. As long as you don't start trouble. Raven walked in next, carrying Noah. The room fell silent again, not because of fear, but surprise. Big men in leather stepped aside to let a woman with a baby through. The waitress blinked. Yours? Raven smiled. Nah, he's smarter than me. Olivia sat beside her, finally exhaling. Bear brought her soup and bread, his large hands careful not to spill. Thank you, she said. He nodded. Eat up. Long way still. While they ate, the door swung open. A man in a sheriff's jacket walked in, badge from the neighboring county. His gaze landed on Bear's patch and hardened. Well, well. Iron Ridge Guardians, he said. Didn't think you boys would show your faces around here again. Bear didn't flinch. We're passing through, Sheriff. Heading where? Pine Hollow. The sheriff laughed once, cold. You sure about that? Folks there still remember your little incident. Maybe you should take another road. Cole muttered under his breath. Here we go again. Bear's voice stayed even. We're escorting a mother and her child. That's all. The sheriff stared at Olivia. That true, ma'am? You with them? She nodded quickly. They saved us. We were stranded. The man looked her over, then glanced back at Bear. You stay out of trouble, Maddox. I mean it. Bear tipped his head slightly. Always do. The sheriff left without another word. Diesel exhaled. Friendly guy. Bear dropped a few bills on the counter. Let's ride. By mid-afternoon, the convoy was back on the road. The sky had cleared, pale blue stretching over white peaks. But Olivia couldn't shake the tension from the diner. She looked at Raven. What happened in Pine Hollow? Raven sighed. A long time ago, there was a mess. Cops blamed the club for something that wasn't ours. Wrong place, wrong time. People got hurt. They never forgave us. Does Bear still have family there? Raven gave a short nod. Not anymore. Outside, snow began to fall again. Light, but steady. The pickup that had followed earlier appeared once more in the distance. Bear's voice came through the radio. Ignore them. We're almost halfway. Cole answered. Hope the sheriff over there's as friendly as this last one. Bear's tone hardened. Doesn't matter. We finished the ride. As dusk settled, Olivia saw the first road sign. Pine Hollow, 43 miles. Her heart leapt. She was finally close to her sister. But Bear's face in the rear-view mirror told a different story. His eyes stayed on the horizon, dark and thoughtful. Raven noticed. You sure about this, Prez? Bear didn't answer right away. We're not turning back. Olivia frowned. Why? What's waiting in Pine Hollow? He looked at her through the mirror. Let's just say, not everyone there believes bikers can be the good guys. The engines roared louder as they climbed another icy curve, snow swirling around them like ghosts. In the distance, headlights appeared, 2 vehicles parked across the road. Cole's voice crackled through the radio. Bear, you seeing that? Bear's jaw clenched. Yeah. Looks like we're about to find out who still remembers us. The convoy slowed, exhaust steaming in the freezing air. Olivia clutched her baby close. The rumble of engines faded into silence. And somewhere between Ridgeview and Pine Hollow, surrounded by snow and strangers, she realized this wasn't just about getting home anymore. It was about what people choose to believe, and how far some men would ride to prove everyone wrong. The engines quieted one by one, their growl replaced by the sound of wind scraping over ice. 2 trucks blocked the mountain pass ahead, dark silhouettes against the snow, engines idling, headlights glaring straight into the convoy. Raven eased the van to a stop. Well, she muttered. Guess the welcoming committee showed up early. Bear swung off his Harley, boots crunching on the frozen asphalt. His breath came out in clouds as he stepped forward, hands open and visible. Let's make this simple, he called. Road's public, we're just passing through. One of the men stepped out from behind the first truck, heavy jacket, hat pulled low, jaw tight. Not for you it ain't, he said. Not for Guardians. Cole cursed under his breath. Knew it. Bear stayed calm. We're escorting a woman and her baby. You gonna tell her she can't go home? The man spit into the snow. Don't care who she is. We remember Pine Hollow 3 years back. You boys burned your welcome for good. The second man came around the truck holding a crowbar. Turn around, Maddox. Don't make it worse. Raven cracked her knuckles. Oh, I'd love to make it worse. Bear shot her a warning glance. Nobody touches a weapon, he said quietly. Behind them, inside the van, Olivia's heart raced. She could barely see through the frosted windshield, but she heard the tension in every word. Baby Noah began to whimper softly. She pulled him close and whispered, It's okay, sweetheart, we're okay. Bear took another slow step forward. Move your trucks, and we'll forget this ever happened. The man laughed harshly. You think you're still the hero, huh? That patch doesn't mean honor, it means trouble. Bear's voice turned cold. Maybe, but tonight it means they don't freeze to death. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, perhaps out of shame or confusion, the man with the crowbar tossed it back in the truck bed. Fine, he muttered. But Pine Hollow won't let you in. Bear nodded once. We'll take our chances. They climbed back into their trucks, wheels spinning on the ice as they backed away just enough for the bikers to pass. When the convoy rolled forward again, nobody spoke for several miles. The snow grew heavier as the afternoon wore on. The road twisted through the mountain pass, steep cliffs on one side, forest on the other. Olivia stared out at the blur of white and whispered, "Why do they hate you so much?" Raven glanced at her from the driver's seat. "Because people like simple stories. We make good villains." Olivia frowned. "But you helped someone once, didn't you?" "That's what the sheriff said." Raven hesitated. "Yeah, there was a girl, teenager. Sheriff's kid got mixed up with some bad guys. We pulled her out before she got killed. But the sheriff, he needed someone to blame. We wore patches. They didn't. So they blamed the Guardians," Olivia said softly. "Every time something goes wrong, they still do." The radio crackled. "Road's getting worse." Cole's voice came through. "We'll have to stop soon." "Copy," Bear replied. "We'll find shelter." Minutes later, they rounded a bend and stopped dead. A fresh landslide of snow and branches blocked the road completely. "Of course it does," Raven muttered, throwing the van into park. The bikers dismounted again, immediately going to work. Shovels, hands, boots, they dug, kicked, and hauled frozen debris out of the way. Steam rose from their bodies as they worked against the cold. Olivia opened the door slightly, holding Noah under her coat, watching them. Men everyone called outlaws were scraping ice off the road for a woman they'd met less than a day ago. She felt her throat tighten. Raven climbed out and joined them. "You should stay inside," she told Olivia. "I want to help." Raven smiled faintly. "Then keep the baby warm." "That's your part." They worked for nearly an hour before the road was half clear. Diesel's hands bled through his gloves, but he just laughed. "Feels like summer compared to last winter." Cole rolled his eyes. "Your idea of summer sucks." Bear shoved the last chunk of ice aside and straightened. "That'll do." As they started back toward the bikes, headlights appeared from behind, a familiar dark pickup rumbling closer. Raven cursed. "Not again." Bear wiped the snow from his beard. "Everyone stay put." The truck pulled up, stopping a few yards away. The driver's window rolled down. Same men from before. "Couldn't help yourselves, huh?" Bear said calmly. The man leaned out. "Word's spreading, Maddox. Pine Hollow's sheriff says if he sees you near that town, he'll lock you all up. You're bringing that woman and her baby straight into a mess." Bear's eyes narrowed. "She's going home. End of story." The man sneered. "You ever think maybe she doesn't want your kind at her door?" Olivia pushed open the van door before Bear could answer. Snowflakes caught in her hair, cheeks flushed from heat and fear. "Stop it," she said firmly. "These men saved us. Without them, my son and I would be dead right now." The man's jaw worked, but he didn't speak. "Whatever happened between you and Pine Hollow has nothing to do with us," Olivia went on. "So please, just let us pass." The silence that followed felt endless. Then the man finally muttered, "Fine. Your funeral." He threw the truck in reverse and drove off. Bear exhaled, a cloud of white mist. "You didn't have to do that," he told her. "Yes, I did," she said quietly. "Because I'm not afraid of you." For the first time since she'd met him, Bear's eyes softened. "Then you're smarter than most." They reached a small town by dusk, a handful of cabins and a clinic glowing faintly in the distance. Bear pulled in. "We'll stop here for the night. The kid needs warmth." Inside the clinic, a nurse examined Noah, smiled and said he was fine, but she frowned at the sight of the jackets. "You folks with that biker group from Ridge County?" she asked. Bear nodded once. She hesitated, then said quietly, "If you're heading to Pine Hollow, you should know. It's not just the sheriff who's got a grudge. The mayor, the whole town, they still think you brought that mess years ago." Raven crossed her arms. "Yeah, we heard." The nurse lowered her voice. That woman you're helping? She said she's going to her sister's? Emily Harper? Olivia looked up. You know her? The nurse nodded. Everyone does. Her husband's the deputy sheriff, Dalton's son. If you roll into town with bikers, he'll lose his mind. Bear didn't react. We'll handle it. The nurse sighed. Then I'll pray you do. Pine Hollow's got a long memory. Later that night, the club gathered in the small parking lot behind the clinic. Snow fell quietly again, covering the bikes in a thin white layer. Cole kicked at the snow. Prez, this is suicide. We roll in there. The sheriff's gonna drag us straight to jail. Bear stared out at the road ahead, jaw set. We finish what we started. That woman deserves to get home. Raven leaned against the van. And after that? Bear's voice dropped. After that, maybe we finally stop running from that town. Olivia, holding Noah by the window, watched them in silence. She didn't know what their history was, but she knew one thing. They were risking everything for her. And tomorrow, when they reached Pine Hollow, she'd finally understand why. The night was black and quiet when they left the small mountain clinic. The world around them looked frozen in place, trees stiff with frost, power lines humming with ice. Olivia sat in the passenger seat of the van beside Raven, baby Noah bundled tight on her lap. Behind them, the motorcycles rolled in formation, headlights slicing through the mist. For hours, there was only the sound of engines and the steady thrum of tires over frozen ground. Then, without warning, the radio crackled with static. Prez, we got a situation. Cole's voice broke through. Tree down across the road. Raven cursed softly. Not again. Bear's calm voice came next. All right, lights on full, we clear it together. They stopped near a sharp curve. A massive pine tree heavy with snow blocked both lanes. Ice glinted along its trunk like glass. The air was so cold Olivia could see every breath she took. The bikers jumped off their bikes without hesitation. Diesel grabbed an axe from the van. Cole and Bear started dragging thick branches aside. Raven handed Olivia a blanket. Stay in the van. Keep him warm. Olivia pressed Noah close, watching through the windshield. The bikers' boots crunched through deep snow, their breaths forming clouds of white as they worked. She'd never seen men move like that. No arguing, no orders needed. Just quiet strength. Bear swung the axe again and again until sweat froze on his forehead. Diesel grunted, lifting the splintered logs aside. After 20 minutes, the path began to clear. Then headlights appeared behind them. 2 vehicles, the same pickup trucks from before. Raven saw them first. Here we go again. She reached for the radio. Prez, they're back. Bear dropped the axe and turned. Everyone stay cool. The trucks rolled closer, tires crunching. One stopped a few yards away and 2 men stepped out, faces shadowed by their hoods. Didn't we already talk about this? Bear called out. The first man stepped forward, voice cold. You didn't listen. You're not wanted in Pine Hollow. We're not here for trouble. Trouble's what follows you, the man shot back. Inside the van, Olivia's pulse quickened. She could hear every word through the thin metal door. Noah stirred, sensing her fear. Bear took a step forward, standing tall in the snow. You see that van? He said, pointing. Inside is a mother and her child. You want to keep playing tough or you want to move aside and let them go home? The man hesitated. The second one spat on the ground. You think one good deed erases everything you did here? This town remembers who you are. Bear's voice dropped lower. So do I. And I remember what we did wasn't wrong. Cole's hand brushed the handle of his pocket knife. Prez. Bear raised a hand without looking back. Stand down. The men stared at him for a long moment, then turned away. You're making a mistake, Maddox, one said, climbing back into the truck. The sheriff's waiting. Bear's eyes stayed fixed on the dark road ahead. He can wait. The trucks roared off into the night. When the noise faded, Bear turned back to the group. Let's finish this. Raven joined them, hacking the last frozen branches until there was enough room for the bikes and van to pass. Olivia couldn't stay seated anymore. She opened the door, stepping into the cold. Hey, Mama, get back inside, Raven said. I just, Olivia's voice trembled. I just wanted to thank you. Bear wiped his hands on his jeans, the steam of his breath curling in the air. Don't thank us yet. We're not there. Olivia looked at him. You didn't have to help, any of you. He met her eyes, quiet and steady. Yeah, we did. By the time they reached lower ground, it was past midnight. The snow had eased into a light drizzle that froze as it touched the road. The lights of Pine Hollow shimmered faintly ahead, a promise and a warning. They pulled into a rest stop on the outskirts of town to regroup. Raven turned off the van and rubbed her hands together for warmth. Welcome to Pine Hollow, she muttered. Population? Bad memories. Bear leaned on his bike, watching the distant lights. We'll wait till morning. No sense showing up at someone's door in the middle of the night. Olivia hesitated. You said earlier you'd been here before. What happened? Bear didn't answer right away. He looked down at the patch on his vest. Iron Ridge Guardians. The edges frayed from years of road wear. 3 winters ago, we helped a family out here. Same kind of storm, they called us outlaws for it. Sheriff said we didn't belong, whole town turned on us. Raven added quietly. We saved a kid from a wreck the deputies ignored. They never forgave us for making them look bad. Olivia shook her head in disbelief. You saved someone and they hated you for it? People don't like having their heroes questioned, Bear said simply. The baby stirred and started to cry softly. Olivia rocked him gently. My sister's husband. He's a deputy. Sheriff's son. That made everyone freeze. Cole swore under his breath. Perfect. Raven sighed. That explains why the nurse looked like she saw a ghost. Bear didn't move. You didn't mention that before. I didn't know it mattered, Olivia said defensively. You said you'd help me get to her. And we will, Bear said. But it means we walk into town wearing targets. Raven glanced at the van's cracked side mirror, where the baby's reflection shimmered faintly. Then we make it count. And morning came gray and heavy. The clouds hung low, the streets of Pine Hollow hidden under fog. The Guardians rolled out slow, tires hissing on damp asphalt. As they neared the town limits, Bear could see the old sign. Welcome to Pine Hollow, where faith guides the road. He smirked under his breath. Faith, huh? We'll see. A mile later, flashing lights appeared ahead. 2 police cruisers waited at the edge of town. Sheriff Dalton himself stood beside them, coat buttoned to the chin, hat low over his eyes. Cole muttered, Here we go. Raven's hand tightened on the wheel. You sure about this, Prez? Bear's voice was calm but firm. We don't turn around. The sheriff raised a hand, signaling them to stop. The convoy slowed, engines rumbling in unison. Dalton's eyes swept over the bikes, then the van. You really had the nerve to come back here, Maddox. Bear removed his helmet, steam curling off his breath. We're escorting someone home, Sheriff, that's all. Dalton's gaze shifted to Olivia stepping out with the baby. Ma'am, you with them? She nodded. They saved us on the mountain. Dalton's eyes narrowed. You could have called the authorities. There were no authorities, she said sharply. There was only them. The sheriff's jaw tightened. They're not welcome in Pine Hollow. Bear crossed his arms. Then we'll deliver the lady and leave. No one needs trouble. Dalton stared him down, long and silent. Then he finally stepped aside. Make it quick. Bear gave a small nod. Appreciate it. The bikes rolled slowly through the checkpoint, engines low, the van following close behind. The townspeople watched from porches and windows as the convoy entered, the sight of leather jackets and roaring bikes like ghosts from a story they thought was long buried. Raven murmured to Olivia, Ready to see your sister? Olivia nodded, tears already burning her eyes. I've been ready for 3 years. As they turned down Maple Street, Bear glanced in his mirror. The sheriff's cars followed at a distance. He knew this wasn't over. And when they stopped in front of a blue house with a porch light flickering weakly through the fog, Bear said quietly, End of the road, Mama. Olivia held Noah tighter and whispered, "No, I think this is just the beginning." The convoy rolled to a stop in front of the small blue house at the end of Maple Street. The engines quieted one by one until there was nothing left but the sound of rain melting the last bits of snow on the gutters. For a moment, no one moved. Olivia stared at the house through the windshield of the van. 3 years. 3 years since she had spoken to her sister. 3 years since the night she'd left town with nothing but a backpack and a baby growing inside her. Now she was back, escorted by 6 bikers and a woman who could fight a bear with her bare hands. Raven killed the engine and looked at her. "You ready?" Olivia swallowed hard. "No. But I have to be." She stepped out into the gray morning, holding Noah close. The air smelled like wet pine and chimney smoke. Behind her, the Guardians parked their bikes in a neat line along the curb, silent and alert. Across the street, curtains shifted. Faces appeared behind glass. Everyone in Pine Hollow was watching. Bear stood beside his Harley, helmet under his arm, eyes fixed on the front door. "Go on," he said softly. Olivia nodded and climbed the steps. Her knees trembled as she lifted her hand to knock. Before she could, the door opened. Emily stood there. Older, thinner, her hair pulled back, circles under her eyes. For a second, she just stared. Then her hand went to her mouth. "Olivia?" Olivia's voice broke. "Hi, Em." Emily's eyes darted to the baby, then to the bikers behind her. What is this?" "It's Noah," Olivia whispered. "Your nephew." Emily's expression melted. She reached out, touching the baby's cheek with trembling fingers. "Oh, Liv. He's beautiful." And just like that, the wall between them cracked. Emily pulled her into a hug so tight Olivia thought she might never breathe again. Both of them cried silently on the porch while rain tapped softly on the roof. When they finally pulled apart, Emily noticed Bear and the others waiting near the curb. "Who are they?" Olivia wiped her tears. "They're the reason we made it here. They found us on the mountain." Emily's face shifted. "Those are bikers?" Raven called out lightly. "Guilty." Emily's expression tensed. "You brought them here? Liv, do you have any idea what you're doing?" "Yeah," Olivia said quietly. "Saying thank you." Before Emily could reply, a deep voice came from behind her. "Emily?" A man stepped onto the porch, broad shoulders, deputy badge glinting on his chest. Mark Dalton, the sheriff's son. The man who had refused to speak to Olivia since the day she left. His eyes froze on the jackets lined up in the street. "You brought them to my house?" Olivia's heart sank. "Mark," he pointed at Bear. "You and your crew caused hell in this town. My father almost lost his job cleaning up after you." Bear's tone was calm. "We didn't cause it. We cleaned up what your father ignored." "Don't start," Mark snapped. Raven stepped forward, chin high. "He's not starting. He's finishing what you wouldn't." Mark glared at her, then at Olivia. "You don't know who you're traveling with." Olivia straightened. "I know exactly who I'm traveling with. The people who saved my baby when nobody else was there." For a moment, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Rain dripped from the roof. The neighbors kept watching from their windows. Then Emily spoke softly. "Mark, please. Not in front of the baby." Mark's jaw clenched. "They need to leave." Bear nodded once. "We will. Just wanted to make sure they were safe." He turned to go, but Emily stepped off the porch. "Wait," she said. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were steady. "You're the ones people said dragged a girl out of a wreck years ago, right? My husband told me you only did it to look good." Bear met her gaze. "That girl's name was Lucy. She was 16. We didn't do it to look good. We did it because she was dying, and no one else came." Emily looked down. "I never knew." "Most people don't want to," Bear said. Olivia wiped her eyes again. "Em, they've done nothing but help since I met them. Please, just let them rest a while." Mark hesitated, looking between his wife, the baby, and the bikers. Finally, he sighed. 1 hour. Then they're gone. Bear gave a short nod. Fair enough. Inside, warmth and the smell of coffee filled the air. Emily held Noah while Olivia sat near the fireplace, trying to absorb the fact that she was finally home. Raven leaned in the doorway, half smiling as she watched the sisters talk. "Worth the trip, huh?" she said quietly to Bear. He didn't answer. His eyes were on a framed photograph on the mantel, a police ceremony from years ago. Standing in the middle was Sheriff Dalton himself, and beside him, smiling proudly, was a young woman with light hair and a badge pinned to her jacket. Raven noticed his stare. "That her?" Bear nodded once. "My sister." Raven's smile faded. "She worked here?" "Deputy," he said quietly. "Took the call that night. They told her to stand down while that storm took a family off the road. She went anyway, saved the kid. Sheriff said it wasn't her place. Fired her the next day." Raven's eyes softened. "And she's the reason you help strangers?" Bear didn't deny it. He just kept staring at the photo. "Yeah, she's the reason." Outside, the rain stopped. The clouds broke just enough to let a pale light spill through. Olivia stepped onto the porch holding Noah. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Bear nodded. "You don't owe us anything." "Yes, I do," she said. "You gave me back my family." Raven smirked. "We just gave you a ride." Emily appeared at the door, smiling faintly. "You should all come inside for lunch. I think the town's had enough drama for one morning." Cole muttered, "We don't usually get invited to lunch." Bear's mouth twitched. "Guess there's a first time for everything." They stepped inside, helmets in hand, boots leaving wet prints on the floorboards. Emily set plates on the table, and for the first time in years, laughter filled the small house. Even Mark stayed quiet, his anger slowly dissolving as he watched Noah giggle in Diesel's massive hands. For one strange fleeting hour, peace lived in Pine Hollow again. When it was time to leave, Olivia followed them to the door. "You'll always have a place here," she said softly. Bear gave her a small nod, then turned to Emily. "You've got a good sister. Don't lose her again." Emily's eyes shone. "I won't." As the bikers stepped outside, neighbors peeked out again. But this time, no one looked afraid. Some even waved. Bear swung his leg over his Harley and started the engine. The roar filled the street, deep and steady, echoing between the houses like a heartbeat. Mark came to the porch, arms crossed but no longer hostile. "You got guts, Maddox. I'll give you that." Bear grinned faintly. "Takes one to know one, deputy." They exchanged a small nod. Not friendship, but respect. Then Bear turned to his crew. "Mount up." The Iron Ridge Guardians lined up once more, exhaust steaming in the cool air. Olivia stood in the doorway, Noah in her arms, waving as the convoy rolled out of town. The townspeople watched silently. For the first time in years, Pine Hollow didn't see criminals on motorcycles. They saw guardians of the road. A few miles out, the fog lifted and sunlight broke through the clouds, lighting the winding road ahead. Raven rode up beside Bear. "Think the sheriff's still mad?" Bear smirked. "Doesn't matter. We did what we came to do." Cole's voice crackled over the radio. "Prez, you ever think folks will stop seeing us as the bad guys?" Bear's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Maybe. Maybe not." He touched the small silver locket hanging from his rearview mirror. His sister's badge, polished clean. "We ride anyway," he said. The bikes thundered down the highway, leather and chrome gleaming under the winter sun. And back in Pine Hollow, a young mother held her baby close, whispering a silent prayer for the strangers who had carried her home. By the time the Iron Ridge Guardians reached the ridge overlooking Pine Hollow, the sun had fully broken through the clouds. The storm was gone, leaving the world washed clean. Snow melting off branches, rivers of light running down the wet highway. The engine slowed to a steady hum as Bear raised his hand, signaling the convoy to pull over. They stopped at a wide lookout point where the valley spread below them like a memory, Rows of rooftops, smoke curling from chimneys, the faint echo of life drifting through the cold morning air. For a moment, no one spoke. Diesel finally broke the silence. Feels different now, don't it? Raven leaned on her handlebars, her breath misting in the air. Yeah. For once, they didn't just see bikers. Cole grunted. They saw us walk into town with a baby in our arms. Hard to call that criminal. Bear didn't answer. He stood beside his Harley, looking down at the small blue house barely visible in the distance. Olivia was probably inside right now, warm, safe, surrounded by her family. He exhaled slowly. That's what it's about, he said quietly. Raven tilted her head. What is? Getting people home. They rode on, back toward Ridgeview, the long descent twisting between pines and frozen rivers. The road was almost empty, just the low thunder of the bikes and the occasional cry of a hawk overhead. By noon, they rolled into town. Maria, the diner owner who always kept an eye on them, stepped outside, wiping her hands on a towel. Her eyebrows shot up as she saw the convoy pull in, covered in road dust and ice. You boys been gone all night? She called. Bear swung off his bike. Had a delivery. Maria raised a brow. What kind of delivery takes 12 hours and half a mountain of snow? Raven smiled. The kind that restores a little faith in humanity. Maria smirked. I should have known. Coffee's on the house. The guardians filed inside, shoulders heavy but spirits light. The diner smelled of bacon, grease, and comfort. People at nearby tables looked up, some nodding respectfully. Something new. Bear sat at the counter, hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee. Maria leaned forward. So who'd you save this time? He smiled faintly. A mother and her baby. Car died in the storm. We just gave them a lift. Maria studied his face. That all? Bear hesitated, then reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small object, a silver locket. Inside was a photo of his sister in uniform, her smile bright, eyes brave. He set it on the counter. She used to say something, he murmured. Said the road doesn't care who you are. It just tests what you believe in. Maria's voice softened. She'd be proud of you, Ethan. Bear nodded once, eyes distant. Maybe. I finally did what she wanted me to. Stopped waiting for someone else to do the right thing. Later that afternoon, Cole brought in the town newspaper. He tossed it onto the bar with a grin. You're not going to believe this, press. The headline read, Bikers escort stranded mother and child through storm. Pine Hollow Sheriff confirms, no crime, only compassion. Diesel laughed. Compassion. They finally used the word without putting lack of in front of it. Raven whistled low. Guess miracles happen. Bear read the article in silence. It mentioned Olivia's name, the baby, even a quote from the sheriff admitting he'd misjudged them. Beneath it, a photo captured the convoy riding into town, engines glistening under the rain. Olivia standing on the porch with Noah in her arms, waving. He folded the paper carefully and placed it under the locket on the counter. She'd like this one, he said quietly. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, the guardians gathered around the fire pit behind their clubhouse. Flames cracked against the twilight, sparks flying into the blue night. Diesel passed around mugs of coffee. So what now, Prez? Gonna retire as town heroes? Bear smirked. Heroes? We just gave someone a ride. Cole grinned. Yeah, but that ride is all over the county radio. Folks are saying maybe we ain't so bad after all. Bear looked into the fire. We're not in this for what folks say. Raven raised her mug. Then what are we in it for? He stared into the flames, voice low but sure. Because there's always someone out there walking in the cold, and if they knock on our door, they won't be turned away. Not ever again. Silence settled over the group. The fire popped and hissed. Finally, Raven said softly, Then that's why we ride. Bear nodded once. That's why. Hours later, the fire burned low. The bikes sat lined up in the glow of the porch lights, chrome reflecting the last streaks of orange sky. Bear walked out to the edge of the road, the mountain wind tugging at his jacket. From his pocket he pulled out Olivia's baby blanket. She must have left it in the van. He held it for a moment, then folded it carefully and set it on the seat of his Harley. Down in the valley, Pine Hollow's lights twinkled faintly. Somewhere in that small blue house, a mother was singing her baby to sleep. Bear smiled to himself, whispered something only the wind could hear, and started the engine. One by one, the others followed. 12 engines roared to life, their echo rolling through the valley like thunder chasing dawn. They rode into the dark. No destination, no crowd, no fame. Just the open road, the cold air, and the promise that if another lost soul ever needed them, the guardians would be there. Because sometimes angels don't fall from heaven. Sometimes they ride in on 2 wheels.